It started as a normal hiking trip, but it soon turned into a nightmare. I was sure this is where I was going to die. My cell phone was completely dead. If I wanted to live, I needed to get out myself. Nobody was going to find me. So I started searching for a way out, but the forest was like a maze. I was hungry and dehydrated. I came across a huge cliff, but I couldn't climb over it, and I couldn't find a way around it. I was sure civilization was just over this cliff, but it was just one slip after another. The first night alone was the hardest. It was freezing. I was wondering if I would even wake up in the morning. Eventually, I must have passed out. I started dreaming about math and about a lesson from my high school teacher.
About the Pythagorean formula, and that has to do with right triangles. You see here that the legs are referred to as A and B, and the hypotenuse is C. And you just plug it into this formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that way you can find, given two of these legs or a hypotenuse, you can find the third one.
This isn't making any sense. Can you help me?
Okay, so this building is 8 feet tall, and you're 6 feet away from it, and you're trying to get to the top. So, or you're trying to find just how long of a ladder you need to get to the top. So, I mean, if you compare it to the notes, all you have to do is plug in the numbers. So you take your 8 feet would be your A or your B, and then your 6 feet is going to be your A, and then you just plug it in there. So you have 8 squared plus 6 squared is equal to c squared.
Okay, and that equals this length?
Yes.
That's c, right?
I woke up with a plan, determined to survive. I was going to use my math skills to get over that cliff. Thankfully, I remembered to pack my handy measuring tape, which I used to measure the width of that enormous river. It was 30 feet wide. I then needed to measure the height of the humongous cliff. Thankfully, I always carry a large rope. I threw the rope over the cliff, and I straightened the rope. This is a very scientific way of measuring heights of cliffs. I just eyeballed the top really well, and then I put my hand on that spot. Next, I just needed to lay the rope down and simply measure. I'm glad I never go camping without my huge whiteboard. How else was I going to work out my escape? First thing I did was draw a picture. I knew that the height of the cliff was 40 feet now, and I knew that the width of the river was 30 feet, and it formed the right triangle. So I knew I could use the Pythagorean theorem now. I just needed to solve for c. 30 squared plus 40 squared equals c squared. 30 squared is 900 plus 40 squared is 1600 equals c squared. 900 plus 1600 is 2500 equals c squared. I took the square root of both sides. The square root of 2500 is 50, and that equals c. I now knew I needed a 50-foot something to walk over so I could get over that cliff and I could make my escape to freedom. That wouldn't have been possible if I didn't remember to pack my saw. I came across a huge tree and I said, "This is perfect." So I made my way to it, saw in hand, and I was just determined to live. I got a second wind in life, renewed strength. I saw that whole entire tree down. It took many long hours, but I finally got it done. Then I laid that tree across the cliff, and I was ready to walk over it. I felt like a cheetah climbing that tree, but I knew I had to get to the other side. If I wanted to live, I needed to get through this, one step at a time. Then I was finally over that cliff, all thanks to the Pythagorean theorem and my math skills. After miles of hiking, I finally saw civilization. I was just overwhelmed with joy and I ran as fast as I could. The first thing I did was order some Sonic. I was starving.